Okay, I am live. Let me set my camera up here. Today's class is on string crossing. And I'm just going to wait for a few to join before I go ahead and start. I'm going to just start by warming up with the exercise that I was showing in my story for anyone that caught it. Basically, it's just doing PAMI and going through a chromatic scale, which it's actually quite tricky. And I was doing in three in the story. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Just because it causes a little bit more confusion rather than making your thumb accent every time isn't really practical. That time, see, this is all thumb accenting. So what I'll do is accent thumb, I, M, A. Oh, it's hard to do in talk. Thumb, I, M, A. Thumb, I, M, A. Thumb, I. So I just add this in to add the element of shifting. So you could do that on every string. And then maybe when you come back up, go up the third string instead. Okay, so I see a couple people are joining now. It's just past 7:30. Let me double check that this link works. If you're here, go ahead and let me know. Would love to hear from you. I know some of you are live watching on the Patreon site, which it doesn't show me if you're watching from there, so sorry about that. But if you have any comments to make, okay, my link works. If you have any comments to make, you'll have to either send me a message or comment on the actual YouTube stream, because otherwise I won't see it live on Patreon. Okay, so let's start with a few basic right-hand string crossing exercises, ones that don't even involve the left hand, just to get us thinking. We're going to start by doing this really slow. We're going to start this with our M and I finger. We're going to pluck the first string with our M finger, and then the second string with our I finger, third string with our M finger, I, see, M, I, follow the pattern, right? So, first string M, second string I, third string M, fourth string I, fifth string M, sixth string I, and then back. So we're essentially walking across the strings here, okay? But we're not even going to play it that fast. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set up our M and our M and our I fingers. And what we're going to do is right after we pluck that M finger, we want to slowly start moving it towards the third string, okay? So it's going to look like this. Give yourself a number of counts, like 4, to move it. So something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when you say 4, your M finger should touch the third string. So let's go ahead and do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to pluck our I finger. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's going to move to the fourth string here, right? Then we pluck our M. 1, 2, 3, 4. We pluck our I. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what this does is give us a greater control of our fingers when we're actually playing in the middle of things. Sometimes our fingers either stay back or they prepare too quickly and stop a note. So the same way with our left hand fingers, how we like slowly move things into shape for big stretches rather than just jumping. It's the same sort of thing we have to be able to do in our right hand to really have a control of what's going on. So this is something I've been doing lately, is just trying to cross really slow. So once again, let's M and I on our first string and the second string. We pluck the M and slowly move it towards the third string. Pluck the I, slowly move it towards the fourth. And that's after dumping the tension. So M, towards the 5th, I towards the 6th. And the point isn't really like, the point isn't really to take up that full 4 beats. It's just to make sure you're consciously moving your finger and to acknowledge that. So now let's try this in a different way. Rather than slowly moving to the string, let's try moving fast to the string. We're going to set up our I and M fingers, and right when we pluck our M, we're going to shoot to the 3rd string as fast as possible. Now when you prepare on the 3rd string, try to make sure your finger is actually preparing in the spot where you play at. So not like the flesh of your finger or like the very tip of your nail, or if you're not using nails, you know, the tip of your finger. Try to prepare as fast as possible. So we got our I and M set up on the 1st and 2nd for, see a few of you are joining here, what's up? If you're watching, by the way, leave a comment, I'd love to hear from you. Okay, so planting on the I and M, or on the 1st and 2nd with our I and M, we're going to pluck M, and we're going to plant on the 3rd, we're going to pluck I, plant on the 4th, plant, or pluck your M, land on the 5th, like this, right? Then I, plant on the 4th, M, plant on the 3rd, I, plant on the 2nd, M, plant on the 1st. So, try this at your own pace. It's quite tricky. And actually, once we start this next exercise, which I'll show you, this type of practice really helps. So normally I teach this next exercise like this. 4 notes per string, and then I do 3 notes. But this time I'm going to start it a little different. Since we're talking about string crossing, we're going to start with just doing 1 note per string. So we're going to start with our M on the 1st string like we were doing just before. Except now we're going to try to keep this really legato, and we're going to do this a little faster. We're going to go M, I, M, I, M, I. We're just going to alternate and walk across the strings here. Now you can try this both ways. Very prepared, like I'm doing here. See how every time I pluck a note, the next one prepares? Or you can try doing it in a very fluid legato way. Okay, so just try to do this. Get this going about this speed. This should be a reasonable speed to ask. And you'll see some of the principles of what we were just working on, hopefully helping you here. You see, what I'm noticing now after what I was just practicing was where my fingers are naturally leading to and the speed that they're going to it. So, for instance, after I pluck this, I'm thinking like, okay, where is the next finger headed towards? Is it actually headed towards the string, or is it like flying out here? So see, when I'm ascending back up the strings here, I'm thinking about my I finger moving forward slowly like this. Right? So, M finger, I. And making sure these motions really make sense. Okay, so try that again. 1, 2, ready, and. Again. Now, let's do the same thing but starting with our I finger. So it's going to start I, M, I, M. 1, 2, ready, and. So this should be something that you work on and do quite often so that you can do it pretty fast. That speed seemed impossible when I first started doing this exercise. So it's something that really helps. It'll make you much more confident when you're just doing a simple scale with a lot less mistakes. So that might have been easy for you, depending on your level. Let's try A and M finger, okay? So these two, our middle and our ring finger. We're going to start with our A, and we're going to do A, M, A, M, A, M, A, M. Now, while you're doing this, hopefully you're playing along with me here. while you're doing this, try to think of what we talked about in the first exercise of our fingers kind of slowly moving to the spots where they're supposed to be. So that none of your fingers are doing last minute motions. Like nothing should be panicking here, right? We're not worrying about anything in the left hand. There should be no panic in your fingers. Everything should be smooth and controlled, with an idea of where your fingers should be moving, what direction and why. By the way, if you're just tuning in, let me know. Let me know if you missed anything, if you need me to explain anything. I see quite a few of you are watching now, so leave a comment. I will get it here, I think. Okay, so now we're going to do opposite of these smooth motions, and we're going to super prepare everything, meaning after I pluck my A finger, my M finger is going to set down really fast, and when my M finger plucks, my A finger is going to set down really fast. So it'll look like this. As opposed to this. Do you see the difference? My fingers are slowly moving to the strings rather than fast, like this. Okay, so what we're doing is preparing every single note as fast as possible. Now notice what spot is most difficult for you. What crossings are most difficult? Probably when you have to do this awkward string crossing where, see, your A finger is below your M. Well, depends on what you mean by below, right? But when it's this awkward string crossing, right, this is what we tend to naturally do, because if our hand is in this position, it's easier for us to line our fingers up like this rather than like this, right, where everything's opposite. So the string crossing is going to be more difficult when it's one that doesn't line up naturally with the position of your knuckles. So let's do this again a little bit faster if possible. Let's go A, M, A, M, A. Join in whenever you can here. A, M, A, M, A, M, A, M, A, M, A. Now when you're doing this, maybe you do each time differently. So this one I'm going to do slow movements to the string, like what you would do if you were playing very legato. And then now this next grouping, I'm going to do fast movements to the string. As fast as I possibly can. Okay, now I'm going to try double that speed. Dum, da, ba, 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 da, dum, da. Now, I don't expect you to be able to do this speed, but if you can, that's great. Oops. Something important when you're doing this is that your finger is actually planting in the spot where it's going to play. Like, it's not just when it's going fast, you don't want it to just feel like it's barely able to get to the string. You want it to be right at the spot that you use, because when you're actually playing, that's what's the necessary skill is, not to just touch the string. Hopefully you know what I mean by that. Okay, now let's do one more grouping. Let's do I and A. Okay, so starting with A, I said I and A, but let's do A and I. Starting with A, we're going to do A, I, A, I, A. So let's keep that going. Right now I'm doing slow movements to the string. Now I'm going to do fast. See, just because your fingers are preparing to the string faster does not mean that you have to actually play faster. It just means your fingers are arriving sooner. Doesn't mean they're pushing through sooner. Okay, now I'm going to do slow movements to the string, starting at the top. Now I'm going to do double speed. Legato movements, fast movements. left elbow. Messed up there at the end, but you get the idea of the exercise. Now, we're going to do something a little bit easier. If that was difficult for you, don't worry. Let's do something a little bit easier here. We're going to do 2 notes per string. This time we're going to do I am, okay? We're going to do I am, I am, I am, I am, I am, I am. Now, real quick, let me tell you why. First, if maybe you're a more advanced player watching this and you're thinking like, oh, this is too basic, this is ridiculous. Well, something I learned recently, more recently than I'd like to admit, is that some of these really basic exercises, when brought to a high level, can be some of the most important specific training exercises. It's like when you go to the gym and you were to like lift up just like a normal dumbbell weight, right? And do like bicep curls. Well, that isn't necessarily doing any worse of a job giving your biceps a workout than doing some crazy thing like lifting up a giant tire or doing a complicated exercise. This is a very specific targeted workout. And that's what we're doing here. And when you're doing a basic exercise like the one I'm about to show you or the one we just did, you can notice a lot about what's going on in your hands. And a lot of things that could actually, you'll notice in your pieces that you can improve on from doing these basic exercises. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start doing this exercise. We're going to do I am, I am, I am, I am, I am. So 2 notes per string. Like this, right? Okay. So now we're going to do that a little bit slower just from the beginning, and we're going to do not prepared at all. So not prepared on the string crossing or the plucked note on the same string. So everything should be really legato. Da 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 da. Right? Not da 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 da. Actually, I find that this is a little bit more difficult than doing the prepared one because you can't hit any other strings. You have to be really careful. And your influence play really legato. Okay, now we're going to do prepared. Include prepared string crossing. So when you're coming back up from the bottom, you're going to go I am, and right after that M finger plucks, your I finger is going to set down, even if the note's not arrived yet in the rhythm, right? So I'm going to go I am, 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 I am. And after your M plucks here on the way down, your I is going to set down. Now reverse it, and now do M, I am, I am, I am, I am, I am, I. Now your M finger is going to set down fast on both directions rather than your I finger. And if you're not able to do the speed, go whatever speed you'd like. Now let's go back to I am, and we're going to start at a really low speed, and this is just so that everyone can play along here. Which, by the way, I still have been meaning to do a group Skype call to where I can see you all too, or now Snapchat just allowed a feature where you can do group video calls. So I'm curious how each one of these work, but that's going to be a reward option I add on my Patreon so that we can actually do guitar technique together. I'll have headphones in so that everyone can't hear each other. That would be really annoying. And I'll be able to point out specific things in your technique while we're doing the class, and other people will be able to see too. So if that's something you're interested in, send me a message and I'll gauge the interest from that. Okay, we're going to start slow, and we're just going to get faster. I'm just going to get faster, and you're going to see how long you can keep up. This is just so that we are pushing our levels, and when we're going slow, even if you're capable of going much faster, you're noticing what's going on in your hands. Okay, we're going to start like this, speed. 1, 2, ready, and I am, I am. Keep it this speed for a second. Notice I'm doing legato and the prepared practice. I shouldn't say legato, non-prepared and prepared practice. So this is non-prepared, prepared. Getting faster. Okay, now something that you want to pay attention to when you're doing this is to make sure you're not scrunching your shoulder up when things get difficult. You notice that maybe if you're watching, for me, I noticed it a couple of times and I dropped my shoulder back down to stay relaxed. Once again, these really focused exercises are a good time to notice tension in your body. If you're doing something strange like this, then, look in the mirror. I almost always have a mirror when I'm practicing. And look in the mirror, or in this case, maybe, well, not your phone camera. Yeah, you can't see. See, I can see myself here. But yeah, just try to pay attention to what you're doing, because you're certainly not going to notice when you're doing something difficult, Okay, now let's do that same thing with A and M, and then we're going to move on. Or sorry, M and A. We're going to go M, A, M, A, M, A, M, A, M, A, M, A. Okay, one, and we're going to start slower. This speed, 1, 2, ready, and. Just messing up at that slow speed. This is unprepared, and then I'm going to do prepared starting at the top. You'll notice the prepared practice is harder with your A finger, most likely, unless you're a freak of nature. You'll notice I'm speeding up a little bit, that's okay. Try to keep up. If not, if you can't do this and you need a second to figure out what your pace is and what's going wrong, go slower, it's fine. Mute me for a second. That's the luxury we have of it not doing it live. If we were doing this in person, you couldn't mute me. Prepared. Okay, so let me know how this went for you guys. I haven't seen any comments here. I hope my thing is actually would show me it, but I have a feeling some of you are watching through the Patreon page, which you cannot even leave a comment. So hop on over to the YouTube one, leave me a message if you're watching, if this is helping, if you have any questions, whatever, just something. And let's go ahead and move on to another type of exercise, not involving left hand or right hand as much. Let's do some left hand stuff. This subject is string crossing, but I want to make sure not to do an entire hour or 45 minutes of just string crossing. We want to also have some other exercises included. So let's do some slur exercises. This one, we're going to start by starting here on, let's go from the 6th fret to the 5th fret, right? So A sharp to A natural. So get there, 6 to 5. We're going to go like this. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. We're just plucking once per string, right? Now we're going to add on to this in a way that you may not think. It's not going to just be doing that with every finger, but okay, one thing I want you to pay attention to when you're doing this exercise is to not go. Okay, we want to keep this in a steady rhythm because what suffers when we're playing, or whatever, is when we start sounding like this, or it needs to be a steady rhythm, and we need to train ourselves to be able to do that with pull-offs. So it needs to sound the same as this would, right? So every now and then check by just plucking every note rather than doing the pull-off, rather than doing the slur, right? Actually, let's do that. Made up a little exercise here. Let's first go we're going 6 to 5. I was just doing 5 to 4. 6 to 5. We're going to start by plucking every note, and then when we get back to the top, we're going to go 2, 1, 2, 1, and do slurs. 1, 2, ready, and 2, 1, 2, 1. Playing as legato as possible. Now slur. I'm doing thumb, 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 then I, and A. Okay, now we're plucking again. Slur. Let's speed up a little bit. It's okay if you're not able to do it. Do whatever speed you can or push yourself a little bit. We'll stay at this speed for a second. So really think about that rhythm. Okay, I'm going to speed up a little bit. We'll stay this speed for a second. I just realized that if you alternate I and M during this entire exercise, it's actually the exercise we're doing in the right hand, except combined with the left hand exercise. So, ready, and. Try it with your A and M. Okay, that wasn't so great. Let's do 3 to 2 now. So this is 7th to 6th fret. B to B flat. Ready, and. Oh, let's go slower. This speed. 1, 2, ready, and 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2. Slur. You're probably having a little bit more difficult time, as I am, to keep it exactly. Uh-oh, it froze. Huh. My video shows me as frozen. Uh-oh, let me press the home screen and come back. Oh, what happened here? It shows I'm still streaming, maybe I am, but it's not.